Welcome to the Albuquerque Journal's Tech Outlook podcast. CNM is truly one college with infinite possibilities in tech and data sciences. CNM offers programs where everyone can learn about software, apps, or how to build websites. You can also choose from AI programs and machine learning, the Internet of Things, and so much more. CNM, one college, infinite possibilities, and the proud sponsor of the Tech Outlook podcasts.
Hi, welcome back to the Journal's Tech Outlook podcast. I'm Ryan Botel, and our guest here today is Tom Chepakavich. Tom is the founder and CEO of Flow Aluminum. Tom, thanks for being here.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Now, to start, can you just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to launch Flow Aluminum?
Absolutely. I started my career in management consulting, and for quite a while I worked in the utilities industry and for P&M and for Rinchem here that works with the high purity and chemical and gas supply chain for Intel and other semiconductor companies. And so along with this, UNM requested that I mentor their program for tech transfer for commercializing intellectual property. And so when they introduced me to this team, Dr. Wei and Chris Fetro, with this battery and direct air capture technology, it fit right into my career. And I really care about the environment. And, I've got a daughter and I want to see I want her to have the opportunities to enjoy this earth the way I have. So, it really fit in.
Okay.
Yeah.
And was there a story behind the creation of Flow Aluminum? Did it start with some type of pitch contest, or can you just kind of give me that background?
Yeah, so Chris Fetro actually won the pitch deck competition in the spring of 2022 at UNM, won a $10,000 award. And, I saw that pitch and I was very impressed. And then the tech transfer office introduced me and, we did the 10-week cohort. They're given $3,000 to do market research, interview industry entities. And at the end of that, they went right into the NREL accelerator up in Colorado. And from there, we just decided, as I started to discuss licensing with Lisa Kudala, who is the CEO of Rainforest, where she does the tech transfer, company out of California was actually about to license the technology. So they said it's now or never. And
okay.
So we licensed it and right around May of 2023 and incorporated.
So you're in this tech transfer field working for UNM in some capacity, and you see this pitch at a pitch contest by Chris Fetro, who is now your chief technology officer.
He's actually our chief scientist now.
Okay.
One of the things I did want to introduce on today is that Olaf Conrad is our new chief technology officer. He comes over from Pajarito Powder, and Chris Fetro is going to focus on R&D. They just actually received their PhD.
Okay. Yeah. And now for our audience who's maybe not as familiar, Flow Aluminum, tell me what your company is and just kind of give us that background.
Absolutely. We are researching and developing an aluminum CO2 battery that actually also functions as a direct air capture, sequestering carbon, and that's in the grid format. So this battery uses no rare earth minerals, no lithium, cobalt, nickel, manganese, or graphite. So it's an aluminum anode, carbon cathode, and a chemistry in the electrolyte that is very efficient, very high energy density. And so this battery, it can be used in multiple applications. It can be used in consumer electronics. It can be used in EVs, electric vehicles, or grid storage, residential storage, aerospace, aviation. Our focus, though, is grid storage, because in that application, as a flow battery, we can actually concentrate carbon and capture it. So it actually does the dual product. Some talk about the cost of direct air capture. The government is really funding this. There's a lot of questions about that. And with our product, you buy a battery, and as a side effect, you get a direct air capture. So in effect, we're really just taking, that challenge of the cost, we've just really addressed it, and it's really impressive. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, aluminum, for a regular, maybe just layperson in the audience, I hear aluminum, I think of aluminum can, not very advanced.
Yeah.
What's interesting about aluminum?
So aluminum as a metal has a very high potential for energy, for the energy density and what it can do with storing energy in a battery format. It has properties that are very high energy density.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now the aluminum battery that's different than the lithium, cobalt, traditional batteries, what makes this a new concept, this new type of battery?
Yeah, sure. So they've struggled to have aluminum batteries that are rechargeable, and that's where our chemistry really has innovated. And it's called a low overpotential, so it really, depth of discharge, we actually have a very efficient recharging process where in the last 10 to 20 years, the research that's been done with aluminum is almost primarily non-rechargeable batteries. So that's really where our innovation has solved a problem.
Okay, because battery should be rechargeable. I mean, if you're going to use it in an electric vehicle or something, it's got to have a long life. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So now, what do these batteries look like? Are we talking like massive, or do they go into your pocket, or what is the battery that you're putting out there?
Sure. So right now we've got coin cells. They're the size of a quarter. Would look like a watch battery, and then it scales up to the grid storage that I mentioned with the carbon capture. That's modular. Half to full size of a sea container, 40-foot long. So they could be massive or very small.
Okay.
So,
so then, for those little tiny batteries that you're putting out there, is there only certain products that they work with?
The same as if you went into a grocery store and bought a coin cell. They could work in any medical device, any consumer electronics, IoT, fitness. So on up to EVs and grids. So there's no limitations. Yeah.
Are people learning about these batteries? Are you getting new customers, just everyday people who maybe want to use a more environmentally friendly battery than a traditional one?
Absolutely. I don't know if I forgot to mention the battery's not flammable, which is a massive advantage. And people, they hear that and they want to adopt it. I was just in New York and they've struggled with their e-bikes with the fires. And I spoke to several companies and they just see, if you had a van of them out here, I'd buy the whole van right now. It's just the interest is really, it's just about educating, this opportunity to educate the public because no one's ever heard of an aluminum battery, but it really has all the advantages over a lithium battery.
Yeah. So. Yeah. That's a pretty important thing to mention, is that one is flammable and one's not flammable. That's kind of maybe an oversight that a lot of customers might want to hear about.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, when we got to the bigger side of the battery, we're talking grid storage and carbon capture. Talk to us about the electric grid. What is going on in America right now with our electric grid? What are the problems that companies are trying to find solutions for?
Yes. So, storage-wise, the current lithium short duration batteries that last about 3 hours, a sea container size lithium battery, they're flammable. And there was an incident recently in California where one of them went up in an installation of 100, and they actually had to clear an entire neighborhood for fear that the thermal runaway and the fire would accelerate. So that's a huge problem. Another problem is performance in extreme temperatures. So in the Southwest we have the heat. The batteries degrade. Ours do not. The flow aluminum battery does not. At hot or cold temperatures, we're testing down to negative 40. And NASA's actually working with us to see if we can get to negative 60 Celsius. But so this opens up markets up in northern Canada and other areas. But it's a huge advantage over the current batteries, and we can also be long duration, which is where the battery storage industry is going. 10 hours is the threshold the government has kind of defined as, can this battery power, thousands of houses for over 10 hours, and we fit in that. So, yeah.
And then you mentioned carbon capture. What does that mean, and how does your product do that as opposed to a more traditional battery? Sure.
So in ambient air or in industrial source, we can actually pull carbon out of the air. The carbon is this problem contributing to climate change, and we can actually the battery as it discharges concentrates carbon out of the ambient air or a pure CO2 source that came out of a factory, say, and it creates an oxalate that we can trap and bury, or we're using them in other industries now, that carbon output for creating cement or other things. But really, it's one of the biggest challenges in addressing climate change is getting carbon out of the air, because it's a leading contributor to the global warming and all of these problems.
Okay. So, and how do you solve that problem? Yeah.
So our large grid format battery, we're estimating, could pull up to 250 tons of carbon out of the air annually. So if you look at the big installations that are going in now with 100 to 200 of these batteries, you could pull 10,000 tons of carbon from the atmosphere a year. And that's the battery on discharge is capturing that carbon. Yeah, large installations were really competitive with the other solutions that are entering the market for capturing carbon from the atmosphere.
Great. Now, tell us a little bit about what's life like at Flow Aluminum these days. You're a company that's only been around for about a year. Yeah. So in that time, just give us a sense of your employees. Have you grown? What are some of the issues and just day-to-day things that you're working on every day?
Yeah, so the original team in May of 23 was Dr. Wei and Chris Fetro and Dennis March. Dennis March had a career opportunity and departed, and we brought in Chris Brower, who's got a lot of industry experience in the EV market. He worked for Canoo. They make the EV vans that NASA is working with. He spent 20 years in the automotive industry, and he brings that expertise to us along with some venture capital experience. And so then we've actually, just added Olaf Conrad, who has actually founded a battery company in the past, Jana Batteries. And he came here and was working with Pajarito Powder, and we're really fortunate to have that experience. Scaling a battery company he's going to be a key player. He just started Monday, yesterday. And so, and Dr. Wei is actually going to take an advisory role, focusing on her, she's an assistant professor at UNM. So, it's her innovation. She started the research at Cornell during her PhD and did a postdoc at MIT. MIT's done a lot of aluminum battery research, and she brought that here and innovated with Dr. Fetro that chemistry. Anyway, so the team now is Dr. Fetro, chief scientist, Conrad Olaf, who is the CTO, and Chris Brower, who's our chief strategy and commercial officer. And then we brought Simon Shah on, who is doing all of our finance and ops work, kind of just chief operating officer. He's done a lot of turnaround work. I met him through the University of Michigan Alumni Network, and he just fits everything we need to, really execute. And that's, for battery companies, it's the single point of failure is the execution. And I think Simit really helps us solve that problem. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so you're the CEO of a startup. You've got a lot of it sounds like very intelligent, successful people who are depending on you a little bit for your livelihood. Yeah. What keeps you up at night? What are the issues that your company faces every day?
Yeah, so, the R&D for this battery, we've changed courses a couple of times. We're making huge progress. Last week, we had a breakthrough at our R&D shop in Arizona, where we got not only 2 coin cells operational, but 2 planar 2-inch by 2-inch cells, which, this is the big challenge in battery R&D, is scaling up from the smaller form factors. And so for the last year, that's been what's keeping me up at night. And as of last week, we've kind of made a huge breakthrough there. And so a lot of progress happening.
Okay. Yeah. What's it like to be working for a tech company and have there be that big breakthrough, the sigh of relief? What's just the atmosphere there when that happens?
Well, yeah, our advisory team and investors, they're just thrilled, and the pressure releases significantly when we bring that breakthrough. Now we just have to monetize. We have to bring it. As we continue to raise money and grow, we have to really, execute on that. But it really brought a lot of stress out of, the week-to-week operations, and it really allows us to focus on R&D and product development. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So when you're in the room with an investor, because you try to raise money. Yeah. So how do you sell your company? What do you tell them that makes them want to take their money and invest in your company?
Yeah. So we look at the industry, we look at how the lithium battery industry is developed, and how people don't believe it's solved the problem, and so we believe that we truly have solved the problem, and all the advantages we have, the higher energy density. This battery is more than double the energy density of a traditional lithium-ion battery. It's not flammable, and then we've got that carbon capture and the extreme temperature performance. It's just it really solves most of the problems with the current battery offerings.
And you mentioned earlier when we started talking, that was kind of one of your motivations for this company. You care about the environment. You see it as a problem. You mentioned your daughter. Can you just tell us about that motivation? Where does it come from, and what kind of inspired you? Was there a certain thing that led you down that path?
Yeah, certainly. I moved out here 22 years ago, and I've just, we've seen the West, stricken with the fires. We've, obviously New Mexico was hit with a terrible fire recently, and the climate change. It's global warming, the climate shift. There's shifts. We're going to struggle with water in New Mexico anyway. These energy sources are the driver of the climate change, and we have to address that. We talk about artificial intelligence. That's going to suck so much energy. There's going to be increasing demand for solutions for generation and storage. And, we can meet that, and we can capture carbon. So we can not only address this problem that's escalating moving forward of providing energy, but actually addressing what's happened, in the last century with carbon released into the atmosphere.
And you mentioned your daughter. I mean, do you talk about this? Is this something that goes beyond your company? Is this a passion for you, or?
It absolutely is a passion for me. I've been involved in venture-backed companies, but this really, when this product was pitched to me, it just, I do have concern, for the future for my daughter with the, increases in storms and the impacts it's having to the economy and all of these things. So I just, to be able to spend day to day working on a product that addresses this, that solves problems for society, that could potentially save lives, not only with burning batteries, but in a lot of countries, areas of the country are going to be underwater because of climate change, and we can address this and we can save lives. So yes, every day I wake up and I'm like, this is what I was meant to do.
Cool. Yeah. So Flow Aluminum, we're 1 year in. Yeah. What if we have you back here in a year from now? What do you hope to be able to tell us about the next year for Flow Aluminum?
Yeah, I'm highly confident we'll be in the market. Our Beachhead are what's called 18650 batteries. They're just really cylindrical batteries similar to what you could get in the grocery store. A lot of people don't realize this is what like a Tesla EV battery is. It's a tray of 7,000 of these cylindrical batteries that you could, are similar to what you buy in the store. So we're taking this to market. It could be used in an EV, but our initial uses are going to be with the military and communications equipment. And then that same battery can also be used in e-bikes. I was in New York, and just overwhelming interest. So a year from now, I'm very confident we can be in the market selling these batteries and scaling up those small batteries to start, and then starting the research on the Flow Grid batteries for our future release of that grid battery that captures carbon.
Okay. Yeah. Well, Tom, thanks so much for coming in. I learned a lot about aluminum batteries and a lot about your company. So thanks for sharing your thoughts and knowledge with us. Is there anything else you'd just like to close us off with, where Flow Aluminum's at, and just other interesting things that people should know about your company and your technology?
Yeah, so this company, we really just have a great culture, and it's just. I've worked in venture-backed companies before, and I believe that the culture of our company is going to be really what leads us and helps us scale. And I think, as we start to hire, I really hope to bring folks in from, the community here in New Mexico. And so the big thing I'd like to say is that we believe we can generate thousands of jobs in New Mexico. We believe that we can scale the manufacturing operation and create thousands of jobs in New Mexico, and we'd love to work with the community on that.
Okay, so that is probably an important thing I should have asked. You do plan to eventually, when you get into manufacturing, do those operations here? You think that you can support that work with New Mexico, with a workforce in New Mexico? Yeah,
we actually are fortunate to have an advisor named Bob Gallion, who co-founded Contemporary Amperex, which is the largest battery company in the world. They 37% of the market share. He is very very bullish on New Mexico. He's done research when he was with CATL. He believes, like, for example, the Borderplex region has industrial gas supply, the trains, the rail. Then you have UTEP and New Mexico State University talent coming in, and you've got that proximity to Juarez and Mexico. So you have all of these things that he believes are perfect for a large battery manufacturing operation. Albuquerque as well has all of this, and we're doing a lot of research there. So maybe Albuquerque and the Borderplex region.
Okay, great. Well, that's fascinating stuff. I'm Ryan Botel, Tom Chepakavich, Flow Aluminum. Thank you so much for coming on and talking to us today.
Thank you very much.
Thanks again for listening, and remember that this podcast and all our podcasts can be found at the Albuquerque Journal's website, Spotify, YouTube, iTunes, and SoundCloud. Thanks again, and remember to read, hear, watch.